I need to work on combining filtering and sorting, because I can filter only cats, only dogs, and all, and I can sort by age, and I can change the direction. I can sort by description, type, name, and this all works. But if I try to say I want to filter only the dogs, and then I want to sort them by description, so growing is before wandering, then my filter breaks and I get all of them. And if I sort it again, so growing is before wandering, and then I call the filter, then the sorting is actually kept. So sorting breaks the filter, but filter keeps the sorting. This is not very useful. So let's see what is happening and why. And I think if I go back to my drawing, I could probably see it a bit easier. Because what happens is that the first time I load the page, it prepares the objects and displays the list of all the animals. If I then filter, if I click a filter, then it creates a filter list. And if we look at that function for filter list, is here, there it creates a new list that is filtered from all animals. And that list is then displayed. So display only displays the list that has been filtered. If I click the sort list here, then I get the sorted list goes from all animals. So it takes all of them. It doesn't care about the filtered list. And then it sorts it and calls display on the sorted list. So apparently, filtering the list creates a new list that is displayed. But sorting sorts the original all animals and displays that. So I need to, whenever I call sort list, I should also call filter list. And when I call filter list, I should also call sort list. And then I would need to display the list at the end. But you can probably already see what this would do. Filter list would call sort list, that would call filter list, that would call sort list, that would, and so on and so forth. And we would get an never-ending loop here, an infinite loop, and never go to display list. So we need to restructure everything a bit more, and I think I'll take a clean piece of paper for that. And then let's take a look again. I have here my, where the user selects filter, user click a filter, and that gives me an event that is going into my select select filter function. That looks like that. That then gives me the filter by that I'm going to use in my filter list. That then gives me a new list, the filtered list. Filtered list. That is then called here. I will just draw the display list a bit further down. A list here is displayed. And the same goes for the other one, where the user click the sort button, then it calls that's an event. Let's just call this an event as well. Select sort, and this calls my sort list. that also calls here. That's how it is. And this is our sorted list. So this is how it is. And what if we now say, okay, instead of these filter list and sort list, instead of them calling display list individually, maybe we should have a function here called build list that would then call, first it would call filter list, that would then need to return a filtered list, and then after that it would sort the list, and sort list would then need to return the sorted list, and then build list would call the final one. Maybe we need some red markers to make sure that this no longer happens and this no longer happens. Let's try and build this and see how far we can get. I have a feeling there's still some issues, but the whole thing is, remember, when I select the filter, I already see it here. When I select the filter, it calls filter list, and filter list doesn't call anything but return. I need a function, an additional function here. Let's just make one here called set filter. That would set the filter and then call build list with our new filter. And then the same probably goes over here, where select sort would call set sort. And that would also call build list. So out with those. Let's see if this can be done. So let's go into our code, and when we have here, when we select the filter, then it calls filter list, but instead we wanted to call a function set filter that also just receives the filter by. And the only thing this actually does is should call the build list. So don't call filter list, but call set filter with our new filter here. So if I do this right now, I don't think that build list actually does anything. Let's put it down here. Function build list. And what it should do is it should const create a new list, current list, that is created by the filter list function. And then the current list is sorted. So we would have the sort list function that would return our current list. Let's give it our current list. And then we will call display list with this current list here. So first we filter it. Maybe we want to filter, let's say we want to filter all animals. Filter list of all animals. That will give us a current list. Then we sort that current list. We just overwrite the variable. Now let's make it easy on ourselves. Let's call this the sorted list. Sorted list is now the sorted version of the current list, and then we display the sorted list. This is all fine and dandy, but if we look at the filter list here, the filter list function, that called display list, that should instead just return a filtered list, and it gets the filter by, but it shouldn't get a filter by, it should get the it should get the list to start with. So let's say this should be the let's just call it the filtered list, and then done set it to all animals. But then how do we get the filter by? Because if I try this right now, and I would say filter by is not defined. This function needs the filter by, but I can't. The filter by is used up here. It's known here, but I can't put this function inside this one because it has to be called. If we look here, the filter list function is called from build list, and if the set filter, that knows the filter, but we can't transfer. We have to transfer the parameter from here to here to here, but we only have it there. We don't have it over here. So when we call set sort, we don't have the filter by parameter. So we need to make it global. So filter by is going to be a global variable. You can't see that. I wrote on my table outside. Here, let's put some globals over here. Filter by. And then we need to make sure that when we select the filter, then set the filter should set the global value. This one. Let's try that. So the set filter function needs to store this filter by as a global variable. So let's call it just filter here, and then say the global filter by is equal to this filter parameter. And just let's make the globals. Let's filter by and let it be all by default from the start. So now when we set the filter, it just sets the global variable, and then it calls build list without any parameters, and build list then calls filter list with all the animals from the beginning, the filter list, and then it creates a new list that is a filtered version of all that, depending on what the global filter by was. And this is getting complicated, right? But anyways, filter list takes a list input that is usually all animals, and then it returns a filtered version of that list. And if we look at it here, then we take what is returned from it and calls sort list. And sort list has to then do the same thing. Sort by and sort dir should also be globals, just like filter by is global. And just like here, just like we have the set filter that calls the select filter calls set filter, and set filter set the global value, then we also need the global sort by and sort direction. Let's just call it sort dir for short. And that will be set by the set sort function. So if we take a look here, set filter sets the global calls build, and then select sort would end up with not calling the sort list, but with the set sort function. And the set sort function would take the sort by and the sort dir and store them in global variables. You know what? I've been thinking I shouldn't just have a global variable here. I should have a const settings for the filter, and that would be all, and the sort by, that would be name by default, and the sort dir, that would be ascending. So I have my settings object for all these globals. So let's just find the filter by, and then it should set it in the settings. Filter by. And where else do I use it? Here, if settings.filter by, and else if settings.filter by is dog. Good. And the same goes for the select sort, calls set sort, and then set sort will set the settings sort by be the sort by, and settings sort deer will be the sort deer variable. Just like the set filter function here that stores it in the settings and then calls the build list. I just want to make sure that settings still is called sort by and sort deer. Yeah. Good. And then in build list, we call sort list with a list. So sort list no longer takes the sort by and sort deer, but it takes the sorted list that we then no longer need here. And we need not the sort deer, but we need to get those from the settings, the global object. And the sort by is no longer a parameter from this function, but a global variable. So we probably don't need the closure anymore, but never mind. And then we don't display it, but return it. This was a lot of changes. Because we kind of have to change everything from the old code here where filter list would call display list and sort list would call display list. Now we have changed the function so that build list calls filter list that then returns a filtered list. Then it calls sort list with the filtered list and it returns that and then it displays it. So we changed a lot how filter list works, and rather than sending parameters, we have to store them globally. And now put them in the settings object just to make things even more complicated. Let's see if it works. I can say only cats sort by is not defined in line 133. Settings. I forgot it in the second element, animal B. Let's try it again. Only cats. Yeah, we have the cats and we have the dogs and we have all of them. If I sort them by different in descending order and take only the dogs, they are still in descending order. If I take all of them, still in descending order. If I take only the dogs and sort them, it is kept. It's still the dogs filter. And I can sort them. I can take only the cats and sort them. So Mia comes before Mando. And if I see all of them, Mia is still before Mando. So the sorting is kept and the filtering is kept. And it works. Everything works together with both sorting and filtering. Whew. This calls for a commit. Git add script JS and git commit fixed filtering and sorting. I'm very proud of that. So exclamation mark to show how proud I am.